Hello, this is teacher JB. Today we are going to study who and whose in terms of possessive pronouns and possessive adjectives. And this content is from the book In Focus. First of all, I want to explain the chart of the pronouns, which I didn't explain at the previous footage. Here, this is the chart of pronoun. You see the number, singular, and plural. And you see the persons, first person, second person, and third person. In plural, you also have first person, second person, and third person. The reason you have green marks on the second persons is because whether it is singular or plural, all the forms are identical. So I'm just telling you that you need to figure out whether it's a singular or plural in the context. Okay, here, subject pronouns. First person singular, I. Second person singular, you. Third person singular, he, she, it. And first person plural, we. And second person plural, you. And third person plural, they. Now, possessive adjectives. First person, subject, I and my. Second person singular, you, your. Third person singular, he, his, she, her, it, it. First person plural, we, our. Second person, you, your. And third person, they, their. Object pronouns are I, me, you, you. They're identical. He, him, she, her, it, it. We, us, you, you. Again, they are identical. They and them. So subject and possessive adjectives and object pronouns are I, my, me, you, your, you, he, his, him, she, her, her, it, it. And plural, we, our, us, you, your, you, they, their, them. And then possessive pronouns, I, my, me, mine. You, your, you, yours. He, his, him, his. She, her, hers. It, it. We, our, us, ours. You, your, you, yours. They, their, them, theirs. Now this is what we're going to study today. Who. This is a relative pronoun. So subjective case is who. We have whose, and this is possessive adjective, and whom is the objective case, And we have whose, which is identical to the possessive adjective, but this case, this is possessive pronoun. So I'm going to explain to you the usage a little bit later. And here we have names. Subject John and subject James. John's and James's, they are not possessive adjectives. They're possessive nouns. They are called possessive nouns, but they're functioning like possessive adjectives. And then we have John, James again, identical to the subjective. They're objectives, objects. And then we have John's and James, which are identical to possessive adjectives, but these are possessive pronouns. Here, John, when just like the word is ending with other consonant or vowel, you put an apostrophe and s to show the possession. But when the name is ending with an s, you don't put like this. You just put an apostrophe after s. So it's just like James. And somebody says James's, but actually the pronunciation is James instead of James's. So when the word or name is ending with s, you just put an apostrophe. Here, possessive pronouns as well. John is my friend. John, this is subject, right? I am John's friend. So this is possessive noun, but acting like possessive adjective. I like John. This John is object. John's dog is small. So John's dog, this is possessive noun. It is functioning like an adjective. The small dog is John's. Now, this is possessive pronoun. And who is he? Who, this is the subject. Who is she? So who, just for he and she, who can be used for both genders. Now here, whose, this is possessive adjective. Whose friend is he? Whose friend is she? I don't know who you're talking about. Actually, this is whom, this one. But in English, just like they prefer not to use whom, so use who instead. But in the parentheses, you see am, so to indicate that this is objective case. I don't know who you're talking about. Who should I go with? There's a sentence. Who should I go with? Actually, this one, whom should I go with? With whom is the right sentence, but English, they prefer not to put objective whom in the front. So they move the preposition to the end and then they drop am. So they say, who should I go with? But actually, originally, it is with whom should I go? Okay? Now, whose pen is this? So this is this one, possessive adjectives. And showing the pen, you can say, whose is this? You can use whose, the possessive pronoun, just like this. Whose pen is this? Or as you show the pen to the people you ask the question, whose is this? Whose is this means whose pen is this? But you can omit pen as you use whose, or just like as possessive pronouns. Okay, this is the explanation about the questions with whose. You can use whose in questions, and whose is functioning as a question word, and this whose is for singular and plural. Whose is the possessive adjective like my, his, her, their, and so on. We use whose in questions when we want to find out which person something belongs to or which person someone is associated with. But as I have told you, whose is possessive pronoun as well. Okay? Whose is used to refer to both singular and plural nouns. The grammar structure is whose plus noun, or just whose plus verb. Okay? Whose book, whose grandparent, whose car. So whose book is this? Whose grandparents are this? And whose car is this? Whose child is in the living room? Whose pencils are these? So these whose, they both are functioning as a possessive adjective. And whose is very different from who. So you can compare those two in the following sentences. Who is in the car? This is the subject. I don't know the identity of the person who is in the car. So who is in the car? And now, when you ask about the car, you can say, whose car is that? So who, you have a verb right after it, but whose, you have a noun right after that. So whose is functioning like an adjective. I don't know who the owner of the car is. Who is that baby? So you're asking who the baby is. You don't know the name of the baby. And whose baby is crying. There is a baby crying, but you don't know whose baby she or he is. I don't know who the parents of the baby are. So who is followed by a verb. Who is, who was, who are. And whose is followed by a noun. So this one is functioning as an adjective. So let us read the story together. Who is the owner of the car? There was a car in front of mine. So mine means my car. There was a car in front of my car. I didn't know whose car it was. So you use whose as an adjective, whose car it was. I asked John if he knew whose car it was. He didn't know whose car it was. I asked Tom whose car it was. Tom said it was Jane's car. So this one is functioning, this is actually possessive noun, but it is acting like an adjective. Okay? Tom said it was Jane's car. Oh, it was Jane's. Wow. Jane has such a nice car. So it is Jane's and Jane's car, just the same. This one is possessive noun, functioning like an adjective, and this is possessive pronoun. There were 5 books on the table. I didn't know whose books they were. I asked my friends if they knew whose books they were, but nobody knew whose they were. So this one, whose books, this is possessive adjective, and this whose, this is possessive pronoun. James just walked in. I asked James if he knew whose books they were, whose books. So this is adjective. He said they were his. He said that they were his. So this is possessive pronoun. So it means they were his books. They were James' books. So James' books, this is possessive noun, but functioning as an adjective. I was walking at the park. There was a bicycle in front of the restroom. It was very familiar, but I was not sure whose it was. It is possessive pronoun, whose bicycle it was. So you can say whose bicycle, or you can just say whose it was. C-I-C-L-E, B-I-C-Y-C-L-E, I'm sorry. A little bit later, the owner came out of the restroom. It was Peter, and the bike was his. So it means his bike. Okay, his bike, the bicycle was his. So this is possessive pronoun. The bicycle was Peter's. This is possessive pronoun as well. Okay, so this is the bicycle was Peter's. It was Peter's bicycle. Okay, let us try to put some of words in the blanks. Peter is the owner. It is? Yes, it is Peter's bicycle. The bicycle is? Yes, Peter's. You can just like this. James is the owner. It is James and only apostrophe. James' book. The book is James. Okay, so don't put an extra S here. Okay, Alice is the owner. So it is Alice apostrophe NS. And this is Alice, but this one becomes Alice's. L A Cis. Alice's. The phone is Alice and apostrophe S. So the phone is Alice's. My family is the owner. It is our cafe, or you can say it is my family's cafe. The cafe is ours, or the cafe is my family's. Next one, they are the owners. It is their house. The house is theirs. Now, we are asking who the owner is. Who is the owner? You can say, whose pencil is this? And showing the pencil, you can say, whose is this? And who is the owner? Whose cups are these? And you can say, showing the cups, whose are these? And who is the owner? Whose dogs are those? Okay, you can say, whose are those? As you're pointing out the dogs, you can say, whose are those? Who is the owner? Whose coffee? So singular, plural, or just even uncountable noun, you can use whose in the same way. And here, whose is this? Who is the owner? Whose pins are these? And same, whose are these? You can show the object to the people you're asking the question and say, whose are these? Okay? Okay, let us do the practice. Choose the correct word. This pen is James's or James? Yes, this is James. I told you that when the word or name is ending with an S, you just put an apostrophe only. You don't put a S. So the second one is correct. Who is the owner of the car? Whose is the owner of the car? So this is talking about the subject, the owner. So we choose who. Who is the owner of the car? Do you know how this is? So we have a noun. So we need an adjective to describe. This is subjective and this is possessive adjective. So you use whose house this is. Do you know whose house this is? Do you know the owner of this house is? Now, you're asking about the owner, even though you have a noun to describe, but it's not something you need to describe. This is asking about the owner. So we need somebody to be subject. So we need who. Do you know who the owner of the house is? So the sentence is, who is the owner of the house? Who is the owner of this house? But when the sentence becomes an object and it becomes a clause. The verb who comes stays here, but the verb goes to the end. Coffee. So this is something to describe. So instead of who coffee are you drinking, you say whose coffee are you drinking? Is this your? Is this yours? Yes, there is no noun, so we use possessive pronoun. Is this yours? Which means, is this your coffee? Sorry, I didn't know who it was or whose it was. Yes, it, so whose. This is possessive, it's not possessive adjective. This is possessive pronoun. So you can say this is more like whose coffee. Whose coffee it was. Are you Reagan's brother or are you Reagan's brother? Yes, this is definitely are you Reagan's brother. So this is possessive noun. No, I'm not Reagan or Reagan's brother. Yes, I'm not Reagan's brother. I am Peter's, which means I am Peter's brother. Brother is omitted, so this is possessive pronoun. Can I borrow your pencil? Or can I borrow yours pencil? So this is a noun to describe. We need an adjective. Your pencil. I didn't bring my or mine. So there's no noun, so you cannot use it. Use mine, which is possessive pronoun instead. I don't have any extra. Why don't you borrow Sam or Sam's? You need a pencil, not person, right? So Sam is not the right answer. Sam's pencil. I don't know who sons you are. I don't know whose sons you are. Yes, sons, we have a noun. We need an adjective to describe. So this is possessive adjective. So the answer is whose. I don't know whose sons you are. Okay, thank you for listening to me. And this is the conclusion of today's study. I will come back to you with another topic as soon as possible. Until then, keep studying English and have a great day. Bye.